I want to take you on a little journey. I want you to pretend that when you fire up your Battlenet launcher, it doesn't look like this, and it looks a little bit more like this. Get rid of those drop-down menus, they're dated. Let's have a nice screen with all the expansions there, all laid out, and you're probably thinking, what? Why are there all the expansions there? That's because you could play any single one of them. So big shout out to Christian, or Disney, who sent me a nice detailed voice message of how he could see Legacy World of Warcraft servers working, or as we know it, Classic.
And it was kind of a thought of if they did away with Classic and Season of Mastery and Classic TBC, Classic Wrath, whatever, and these things where we have all different characters and you can swap back and forth and it's just way too much, but to essentially implement something within the game where you could, you have your character, you make your character, and then you could go and talk to Chromie or whoever, right? Even if this is Classic stuff we're talking about, you could talk to Chromie or whatever, there'd be a little bit of whatever to figure out.
And this got me thinking, why can't it be done? And why can't Blizzard do it in such an easy, accessible way to everybody and theirself? It requires absolutely no work. Imagine Vanilla, TBC, Wrath, Cataclysm, Mop, everything up to pre-level Squish being available for you to play on the same character, in the same guild, but at the appropriate level, and Blizzard never need to manage anything on the servers except for bugs. Just want to say a quick thank you to all you guys that have joined the channel as a member in the scrolling banner below. More on how you can support the channel at the end of the video. You're like, what? He's lost his mind. No, I haven't. I had this discussion on stream a couple of nights ago. Stream on twitch.tv/Scottejaye87, by the way. And I think it really could be done. So they could more or less get the final patch state of every single expansion, drop all of them at the same time, got some development work to do in the background, having all the servers linked, having only mega servers, like 4 servers, let's say 3 PvP, 1 PvE for each expansion. When you create a character on one, it creates that character across all of them, and when you level it on one, it levels it across all of them, and you're like, well, that's not going to work. The way I could picture it working is the lowest expansion that you level on, all future expansions, that character will also level on. So you wouldn't be able to go on Wrath and get to 60 and then switch to sort of Vanilla or Classic and be level 60, because we know over time the leveling got progressively easier. So you would always, whatever expansion you level on, all of the easier leveling expansions will also level up at the same time. So ultimately, if you leveled from 1 to 60 in Classic or Vanilla, all of your character, you would have that character at level 60 on all of the servers. Now, I would also have them working as some sort of connected realms, only from a social perspective. So you create a guild on TBC, Wrath, wherever you create a guild, your guild is actually now established across all of those servers. So if you've got someone online in your guild on Mop, it will show in the guild that they're on Mop, but you can also still talk to them. It's a bit like how you can talk cross-platform, cross-game, all of that on Battlenet. So maybe even having the guild sort of hosted a little bit like Battlenet across all the servers. So you can literally talk to anybody from your guild no matter what expansion they're playing. And then you can be like, oh, hey guys, let's raid on ICC tonight, or let's raid, in Mop and go and do Moggish and Volts, or, however you just want to do it, whatever. Now, that would be the leveling. So you create a character and it creates that character across all of them. And while you're leveling up on one, you can switch it up. If you get bored on Vanilla, then just go straight to Warlords of Drain or whatever, where leveling's quicker, level on there. But if you want to go back to that character on the other servers, it will still be at the same level it was left. So you're like, all right, follow so far. You understand how the leveling would work and how, all of the future expansions from wherever you level on will also have a copy of your character at whatever level it's at, and with whatever level of gear it's got as well. So what this means is, if you're raiding on Wrath and you've done all ICC and everything, when you then decide that you want to go and play on Cata, your character from Wrath will have all of that gear. It'll have everything that it would have. So it would always be the previous expansion's copy of the character that goes onto the following expansion. So if you was going, let's say, from TBC to Mop, it will look at all the expansions in between for the most relevant set of gear, basically, which you might not have any because you're just going from TBC, in which case you'll have a level 70 character in TBC gear starting with Mop. This has honestly took a lot of thought, and I really wish I'd made like a flashy video about it, but I couldn't be bothered. I just wanted to talk to you about it and see what you think. So now you're like, well, how can they just launch all the games and never have to worry about them? Now, there's one thing that everyone hates, or a lot of people hate, and that's gear score. So I'm gonna go down the gear score route for a minute, and you'll understand why. But we're gonna call it average item level. We're not gonna call it gear score because it doesn't require an add-on or anything like that. It's just your average item level of your character. So imagine if Blizzard just dropped Wrath, let's say Wrath, Cataclysm, and Mop. We'll just go with those three for now. They dropped all three of them at the same time. All at their all content's available. Absolutely everything. So yes, ICC is open. All the ICC dungeons are open. Tox open. Like everything is there. You need to gate it. How do you gate it with no intervention from Blizzard? You gate it by average eye level, but not for the raid, for the individual. So let's say, 200 eye level gear comes from dungeons and heroics, level 80 heroics. So let's say to get in Nax, you need 190. So you don't have to have every slot full with heroic gear, but you need pretty close to having every slot filled before you can go into Nax 10. Then to get into Nax 25, you might need 200. You need sort of BIS pre-raid gear, if you like. And then to be able to get in Ulduar, you might need 212, 210, something like that, which is then going to mean most of your gear is from Nax. So this is not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen for everyone. So if you're raiding Nax every week, the way you manage gear in your guild might be a little bit different as well. It might be like, hang on, you've already got a 200. This guy's, I don't know, got a 187. We'll give him this 213. So it brings his eye level up, closer to being able to get into Ulduar. Then you'd have to raid Nax every week until your raid guild, your actual raid team is ready to be able to get into Ulduar. So that would take time. That would probably take not that far amount of time away from what it would take if they was to just wait 5 months and then launch the expansion or launch the patch, you know what I mean? So you could have absolutely everything with a set eye level that you physically cannot queue for it. You can't walk in. You can't be boosted in it. You have to go and do all the other things before you can. And you're like, well, what's the point? Well, the point is that Blizzard could launch multiple versions of the game at the same time and never, ever have to worry about doing anything with it. This is what Icecrown is. Icecrown is Warmane's private server, the most populated private server probably on the planet. And they're just at ICC. They haven't done it properly like I'm talking about where, average eye level to be able to do stuff. It basically is just sat at the ICC patch and that's it. But Blizzard have got an opportunity where they could do it right, where what you've got to think about is it keeps all the content relevant forever. In 5 years after these servers have launched, people will still be doing Nax because people would have been playing WoD for a bit and now they want to take Wrath seriously. Or people are doing ults or whatever. Even on your ults, you've got to go through that whole grind. There will be bits where you can cheat. And when I say there'll be bits where you can cheat, once the server has reached its peak, let's say, where, the best guilds who have been there from the start have cleared everything, certain items will become far more accessible as time goes on, like Runed Orbs or Primordial Saronite, the stuff that comes from raids, which you're not going to have access to straight away. So how do you combat that? Well, you leave that server going forever, but after 2 to 3 years, I don't know, let's say 2 years, launch a fresh server. Leave the server there, that loads of people have got multiple characters on, the server's been booming for a couple of years. Then just put a new one up. Don't even have to wait a couple of years. You can wait a year, put a new one up. That's why start with a minimal amount of servers. Only have like 4 or something. So then let's say they start with 4 servers. You'd say after about 10 years, there might be 7. Literally, that's it. But they don't have to do anything. No content phases, no nothing. Just put a new server online. Everything's already done. There are places where I'm sure that there'd be teething issues where they would need to be thought about, like the legendary quest line, for example, in Mr. Pandaria to get your cloak, but even that is still only gated by the tiers of content. You get the first items in Mogasham Vaults, and you get the next items in Throne of Thunder, you get the next items in where, you get what I mean. It still only goes on progressively, so you would only progressively go through that quest line as your eye level allows you to go into the next tiers of content. And you would almost have the PvP seasons going exactly the same. All the gear is accessible. All the gear is accessible from the word go, but it would basically start in the final season of Wrath. So if we're talking about a Wrath server, it will start in the final season of Wrath. All the gear's available. You can get some of the, easy arena sets from just doing Battlegrounds or whatever. But ultimately, an arena season will last 4 to 5 months, let's say. Then it's just the next season, but with exactly the same gear. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. You know exactly when the season's going to start, when it's going to end. It can all be on the in-game calendar, so everybody knows how long the seasons are, because they'll be set at 4 to 5 months every season. And that's about it, really. I mean, that's PvP, that's PvE, that's the leveling, the questing system. This was all spurred on, I want to say again, thanks to Disney, who sent me this message, like voice message. He had some fantastic ideas about using Chromie and it basically being a bit like retail. How retail works, where you can go to each zone. But then I sort of sat and done some thinking, and it's like, well, I would say from a development or a mechanical perspective that just can't work, because you need all separate game files for all the separate game versions. So just having it all on the Battlenet launcher, and you just boot up whatever game you want, whatever expansion you want to go and play. You can talk to your guild because it's across the whole, across this whole expanse of connected realms is, as I say, what I would call it. You'd have Mirage Raceway on every version of the game. You'd have Dreadwing on every version of the game, and all of those versions of Dreadwing, the community side are just connected. Let me know in the comments why it could or couldn't work, what your thoughts on it would be if that was how it worked, and what expansion would you play? Roll the outro.
There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes, everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name, and you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.